Over 60? Discover the 4 shocking juices to avoid and 4 life-changing elixirs you must sip daily. Mary Lawson felt an electric thrill as she read the article's title splashed across her tablet screen. At 62, she hardly believed she'd discover health trends at her age, much less be wild enough to try them. But after the recent scare, the faint dizziness that had descended like an unwanted fog during her morning walks, she could no longer ignore the urgency to reclaim her vitality. It was a call to arms against a wave of lethargy that had crept into her bones. For years, her life revolved around her family. Meals, laundry, and unending care became the rhythm of her existence. Yet in the solitude of her attic that sunny afternoon, she unearthed her grandmother's faded recipe book, a treasure trove of dusty pages whispering forgotten promises. She leafed through them, nostalgic notes mingling with her determination. Each recipe seemed a lifeline, a hope glimmering in the dim recesses of her recent fatigue. "Tom won't understand," she muttered to herself, a familiar wave of dread tightening her chest. Her husband thrived on the safe havens of tradition, on meals steeped in nostalgic sweetness. The very thought of bringing chaos into their carefully crafted routines made her muscles tense. To him, the validity of herbs and juices felt whimsical, an affront to the science of medicine that he revered. Would attempting to craft vibrant juices from her garden's bounty ignite an unquenchable fire of arguments? Before she could examine the doubt lingering in her mind, a pang of insecurity shot through her. What did Mary know of this healing art? How could she confront the fears gnawing at her sense of self? Tom would roll his eyes, she was sure. In their quaint home filled with sweet floral scents, each boundary crossed would feel like a threshold to unfamiliar territory. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Racing thoughts tangled like weeds in her mind. She pictured her grandmother's hands gently infusing flavors of her own garden into bubbling concoctions. Mary yearned to be that woman again, daring and unrestrained, yet shackled to her comforts. Her insecurities clawed at her resolve. With each sip of the vibrant elixirs she began to create, she felt a reckoning within. Memories of her childhood wrapped her tightly. Her family had thrived, conquering hardships with resilience forged in their scrappy survival. Yet, the more she researched those hidden recipes, the more she uncovered a dark thread of health issues that plagued the women in her family. Her pulse quickened with a creeping fear that history might repeat itself, that this path toward revitalization could lead her closer to worrying truths about their shared struggles. The tension within her grew suffocating. Every juice she concocted presented itself as both an affirmation and a question. Would aligning with her grandmother's legacy empower her toward healing, or would her own revelation unravel the foundation of love she had built with Tom? Anxiety coiled in the depths of her being, whispering that the divergence was not just about juices. It questioned everything she held dear. She stood once more at the precipice of change, a tempest brewing within, this time with stakes far higher than fleeting fatigue. What awaited her in the inevitable confrontation with her husband? Mary could no longer ignore the truth awaiting revelation, a truth that carried the weight of both legacy and love. The next morning, Mary stood in her kitchen, the air thick with uncertainty. Sunlight streamed through the windows, casting a warm glow on the array of fruits and vegetables she'd gathered from her garden. They seemed vibrant and alive, a tangible piece of her long-forgotten dreams. Yet, an invisible barrier loomed in her mind, formed by doubts and the looming shadow of Tom's disapproval. As she chopped cucumbers and peeled oranges, each movement felt strangely cathartic. It was her new ritual, a deliberate choice to take action rather than remain a passive observer of her own life. With every splash of beet juice and handful of spinach, she started to feel an awakening, a surge of courage kindled by the thought of whom she could become. But as excitement coursed through her, so did anxiety. She had to confront the reality of her intentions. What if Tom rejected the changes? What if he saw it only as a desperate attempt to cling to youth rather than embrace the aging process with grace? Her heart raced, and she paused, holding the knife mid-air. The question gnawed at her. Was she pursuing health, or was she merely running from something deeper? The answer eluded her, yet the need to express herself became palpable, and somewhere inside she knew she had to try. She decided to craft the most vibrant juice she could muster, a blend of everything she had gathered, a symphony of flavors. She would let the juice speak before words would dance around the kitchen. Mary mixed kale with ginger, added a hint of lime, and finished it off with a sprinkle of basil. The colors twirled together in the glass, a remarkable sight reminiscent of her grandmother's spirited concoctions. With a deep breath, she poured herself a glass, savoring the aroma. But as she lifted it to her lips, doubt whispered, curling around her heart. Was she brave enough to share this with Tom? Her mind raced through every time she'd felt silenced in their routine life. The holidays spent serving turkey she wasn't fond of, the evenings where her opinions on the smallest matters were brushed aside. Would her choices be just another footnote in his narrative? Suddenly, she envisioned a scene. Tom, coming home after another long day, finding her with the blender whirring, hues of her vibrant juices swirling in the light. Would he laugh? Would he query her sanity? What if he poured the juice down the sink in mockery, discarding her efforts like empty parts of a faded equation? Determined not to let imagined scenarios derail her, she thought of how her grandmother had insisted on resilience. "Your voice matters, Mary," her grandmother used to say, her eyes sparkling with the conviction of a woman who'd fought through storms. That voice became a lifeline, grounding her in the present. With trembling hands, Mary called Tom to the kitchen. "Tom, I made something for us," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. His eyebrows lifted in surprise as he stepped into the light-filled space, the scent of fresh herbs wafting toward him. She handed him the glass, watching his expression closely. "What is this?" he asked, the hint of skepticism evident in his tone. The pause stretched between them, and Mary's heart raced, wondering whether she had crossed an unspoken line. But as he lifted the glass to his lips, time slowed. Would this be a moment of connection or a fracture in their shared life? The truth hovered precariously on the edge of their encounter, ready to unfold, a story marked by discovery and confrontation. Mary knew deep within the fruits of change could either bind them together or test their foundation. As Tom's lips touched the bright elixir, Mary readied herself for whatever would come next. The weight of her decisions felt monumental. Would this be a step toward vitality, or would it spiral them into new conflicts? The lingering taste of uncertainty hung in the balance, both of their futures suspended delicately as she braced for his response. The moment of truth had arrived, and with it, the unexpected revelations that could reshape everything she believed about love, health, and her place in the world. Tom hesitated, the glass hovering halfway to his lips, and Mary's breath caught in her throat. A million thoughts rushed through her mind, each one more anxious than the last. Did he truly understand this wasn't just a drink? It was her declaration, a slice of herself she was ready to offer. At last, he took a sip. The look on his face was inscrutable, and for a split second, the kitchen felt like a stage set for a high-stakes performance where every nuance mattered. Would he praise her creativity or ridicule her effort? "What do you think?" She finally broke the silence, her voice a fragile whisper. Tom placed the glass down gently, staring at it as if it were an alien creature. He blinked a few times before meeting her gaze. "It's interesting," he said slowly, his eyebrows furrowing. "Interesting?" The word felt like a cold splash of water against her skin. She had hoped for enthusiasm, for a spark that would light the path ahead of them. Instead, she felt a familiar wave of disappointment wash over her. "Interesting?" she echoed, her voice rising involuntarily. "Is that all you can say?" "Mary, do you not understand what this means to me?" she interrupted, a growing fire igniting within her. "It's not just about juice. It's about making a change in our lives, in the way we eat, in the way we live." Tom took a step back, his expression shifting from confusion to defensiveness. "I get that, but you have to understand where I'm coming from. This is just so sudden. Are you sure this is what you want? Do you think I want to wake up every day and feel trapped? Do you think I've enjoyed fading into the background?" The words tumbled out before she could reel them in, raw and vulnerable. There was a shift in Tom's demeanor. His initial skepticism crumbled as his eyes narrowed, revealing the concern he had for her that she often misconstrued as disapproval. "Mary, you know I love you, right? I just want to understand." As quick as it had ignited, Mary felt the fire inside her cool, replaced by a cautious undercurrent of hope. This was the moment to choose connection over conflict. She took a deep breath, allowing the weight of her emotions to settle before her next words. Maybe you don't understand, because I've never shown you how much this matters to me. I feel like I've been living in your shadow for so long." The admission hung in the air, heavy with the truth she had hidden. Tom's expression softened. "I didn't realize. You've always been so supportive, but I've been blind." His gaze was unwavering, and Mary could see the sincerity in his eyes. This was it. She had carved a space for honesty, and now it was time to embrace vulnerability. As much as she wanted to wrench herself free from the years of silence, she also recognized the significance of allowing him in. "Let's do this together," she proposed, emboldened by the moment. "Help me figure this out. We can try new recipes, focus on our health. Let's redefine what living well means for both of us." Tom's posture relaxed, and he nodded slowly, the tension between them dissipating. "I can do that, but let's think about it. Make this a journey for us, together." The warmth of his acceptance filled her, a balm against her earlier fears. It was not an immediate transformation, but rather a collaborative effort they both were willing to navigate. Yet, deep within, Mary sensed a flicker of something unsettling. Although they had opened the door to conversation, there was still an underlying thread of resentment clinging to her. Part of her wondered if this initial connection could withstand the tests that lay ahead, and if she could fully unearth her voice without fearing recrimination. As Tom reached for the glass again, curiosity sparking in his eyes, Mary's heart began to race once more. Not with dread, but with anticipation. What revelations had been waiting behind her walls? But just as joy started to flicker, another thought pierced through her clarity. Was she ready for the real changes to come? And what would happen when they dove beneath the surface of their dialogue? The path ahead was now lit, yet fraught with the unknown. What if the journey revealed parts of herself she had yet to confront? Would she still commit to exploring these depths, even if it meant facing her own fears? As Tom took another sip, seemingly warming to the concoction, Mary steeled herself for the discoveries ahead. She realized some truths might shatter the illusions she had constructed for herself, along with their relationship. And with that realization, the anxious pulse of newfound courage urged her forward. It was time to confront the parts of herself she had kept hidden. The next chapter of her life awaited, and it was poised to unravel deeper than she ever expected. With Tom still savoring the drink she had so carefully crafted, Mary felt a tumult of emotions coursing through her. The conversation had cracked open a window she'd long left boarded up, and now fresh air poured into her consciousness. Yet, with that air came a chill, a nagging doubt that shadowed her invitation. What had she really invited into their lives? This pursuit of health and change was her dream, one she had buried for far too long. But as the flickering candle on the kitchen table cast momentary shadows against the walls, she questioned whether Tom was fully ready to embrace this shift, or if he would retreat into the comfort of his familiar patterns. "Are you okay?" Tom's voice broke through her reverie, pulling her back to the moment. She noticed the concern creeping into his brow again. This was their nexus, the place where her aspirations collided with the reality of their shared life. "I'm good," she replied, trying for nonchalance but feeling brittle. "I was just thinking." "About what?" His genuine interest stirred something within her, motivating her to push further into her feelings. If she truly wanted to navigate this new chapter, she needed to be transparent. "About the future," she began slowly, each word measured. "About how challenging it can be to step into the unknown when you've been comfortable for so long." "Is that what you think I want?" "Comfortable?" Tom countered, his voice earnest. "I don't want comfortable if it means losing you." The intensity of his declaration pierced through her, heightening her awareness. Was this a breaking point between them, or an opportunity to rebuild a connection buried under routine? "I don't want to lose you either," was her reply, but she could hear the trepidation woven into her voice. She thought back to the years spent playing the supportive partner, shaping her identity around Tom's needs and desires. Now, as she stood on the precipice of change, unresolved feelings bubbled up, resentment mixed with vulnerability. It was a precarious balance, and she could feel herself teetering. "And what if this goes wrong?" Tom ventured, his tone softer now, as if he was mirroring her fragile mental state. "Then we face it together, but burying our heads in the sand just keeps us stagnant. I'm tired of feeling like someone else's backup plan," she admitted, feeling the weight of her own words settle into the space between them. Tom's expression turned serious, carved by the gravity of her honesty. "I never meant to make you feel that way. You deserve to shine just as much as anyone else. I just need to catch up." Mary's heartbeat quickened. This admission felt like a turning point, one she desperately needed. "Then let's catch up together. Let's explore this." As the tension shifted into something warmer, Mary felt a surge of determination emerging from her depths. She had to embrace her passion for creating, for living fully. "What if we document this journey? A food diary, recipes, photos, everything. It could be our way of holding each other accountable." "That sounds ambitious." "Are you sure you want to put yourself out there like that?" Tom asked, arching an eyebrow. "Yes," she affirmed, "because if I'm going to be on this path, I might as well own it. This is my time, not just ours." Mary watched as Tom blinked, and for an instant, she saw a flicker of understanding ripple through him. It was like he was unlocking the door she had been afraid to open. "Okay, let's do it. I'm with you," he finally affirmed, a smile creeping onto his face. Mary took a breath, contemplating the enormity of what lay ahead, the recipes, the health changes, the exposure of her innermost self shared with someone else. But beyond the initial excitement was a looming realization. What other parts of herself would she have to confront along the way? The thought sent a tingling shiver of anxiety coursing through her. How deep could she go into this venture without losing herself in the process? Could she truly navigate the delicate balance between openness and self-preservation? As Tom reached for his phone, standing to document their first recipe journey, Mary caught her reflection in the window. A woman stood there, one not just stepping out of the shadows, but aiming to step into her purpose. But with purpose came the risk of discomfort. Determined to embrace whatever lay ahead and confront the truths she had avoided, she realized the journey would not only redefine her life, but also test the very fabric of her identity. And as she smiled at Tom, her resolve solidified. The path ahead was unknown, but one thing was clear. She was ready to strip away the layers of her past and expose the raw, unvarnished heart of who she truly was. Suddenly, an unexpected ping from her phone jolted her back to the moment. It was a message from an old friend, asking about a lifestyle blog she once dreamt of starting. The flicker of possibility surged within her. What if this opportunity could be the catalyst to inspire others while fueling her own transformation? The excitement blended with fear bubbled to the surface as she opened the message, knowing full well that this could either foster growth or unravel her. The thrill was intoxicating, yet the uncertainty loomed, a perfect setup for what was yet to come. How would she respond? Would she say yes to temptation or retreat back into her comfort zone? Her heart raced at the choice before her, the colors of her future swirling into view. Standing in the warm glow of their kitchen, the message blinked insistently in front of Mary. An invitation or a distraction? She could almost feel the weight of words yet to be formed resting on her fingers. This was a pivotal moment, a chance to leap into a venture she had long shelved in the deep recesses of her mind, one sprinkled with hope yet underscored by self-doubt. Her pulse quickened as the possibilities swirled like autumn leaves in a brisk wind. This could be her platform, a space to plant the seeds of her aspirations and share her journey with the world. But could she handle the pressure? "Hey," Tom called moments later, swinging back into the room, his own phone in hand. "You ready to get started?" He was looking at her with that glimmer of anticipation, the kind that buoyed her spirits yet bore the weight of expectation. "Just a second," she replied, her voice measured as she grappled with her decision. What if embracing this opportunity exposed her vulnerabilities in ways she wasn't ready to confront? But what if it didn't? What if it became the catalyst for real transformation, not just for her, but for others searching for similar paths? Tom noticed her hesitation, the way her fingers hovered over the screen. "Are you all right? You seem thoughtful." He moved closer, creating a small, intimate space where only they existed. Mary took a deep breath. "What if I offered more than just recipes? What if this could be about everything? The struggle, the failures, the success. Would you be on board if I wanted to share all of that?" Tom leaned against the counter, as if bracing for a tide that threatened to rush in. "Absolutely. But it's a big step. Are you ready for that?" "Ready or not, I need to embrace it," she replied, a newfound resolve settling into her bones. "I can't be afraid anymore." But behind her words lurked the tension of vulnerability. Was she truly prepared to shed her layers and invite scrutiny into her life? The question hung in the air, simmering between them, invoking the fears she had masked for years, the fear of judgment, of failure. Yet, atop that fear was an invigorating sense of clarity. At that moment, constructing a lifestyle blog felt less like a leap into the unknown and more like uncovering the truth beneath the surface, the truth that had long been suppressed. "I think," Mary started slowly, "if I go ahead with this, I need to be honest about everything, the highs and lows. I want to show the messy parts because that's where real change happens." "That sounds vulnerable, but I believe it's also what would make it resonate with others," Tom encouraged, his smile a beacon of support. Mary felt the knot in her stomach loosen. If she could share the authentic narrative of her journey, maybe vulnerability would transform into empowerment, both for herself and for those who read her story. It was a powerful illumination, one she yearned to share. "So, are you going to reply?" Tom asked, his excitement rekindled. Mary hesitated, fingers poised above the keyboard. She could almost hear the doubts whispering, urging her to halt. But what if she said yes? What if she risked stepping into a bigger version of herself? "Yes," she finally typed, her heart thrumming in her chest. "Let's do this." With her thumbs tapping the screen, she sent an affirmative response, unleashing a wave of exhilaration mixed with trepidation. This was it, her answer to uncertainty. Tom's eyes widened with enthusiasm when he saw her click send. "I knew you had this in you," he exclaimed. And for a moment, Mary felt buoyant, the fear dissipating like fog under the sun. Yet amid the flurry of hope and excitement, an undercurrent of doubt still nagged at her. Would she be able to keep up with the demands of this venture? The pressure to produce content regularly, the risk of falling flat. How much of herself was she willing to expose, and could she withstand the scrutiny? Gathering her resolve, she turned to Tom. "I need your help, you know. This requires teamwork." "Of course," he said, the earnest energy radiating from him. "We'll figure this out together." What surprised her was not just the commitment she felt the moment she hit send, but the intertwining of their goals. This project could bond them in a way she had never anticipated. But would they find harmony in their journey or unearth tensions they had yet to confront? Draped in the warmth of budding chances and shared dreams, Mary couldn't shake the feeling that beneath this new horizon lurked uncharted depths waiting to be revealed. As the night crept on and their laughter filled the kitchen, a subtle chill danced at the edges of her thoughts, whispering of hurdles yet to come. The road ahead was vivid, yet shadowed by the unknown. What would her newfound bravery ask of her next? The anticipation lingered like a delicious mystery, setting her heart racing with each prospect. Would she truly be ready for what followed? The morning sun spilled through the window, casting vibrant patterns across the kitchen floor. Mary stood at the counter, effectively a barrier between her old self and this new venture she was determined to embark on. With a steaming mug in hand, she reflected on the excitement that had surged through her since hitting send on that initial response. But shadows of insecurity still flickered at the edges of her thoughts. The kitchen, a sanctuary of home, now felt charged with the promise and peril of her ambition. Tom's voice brought her back to the present. "What's on the agenda for today? I can help with anything you need. Just name it." His enthusiasm was infectious, and yet it made her acutely aware of the expectations brewing between them. "Let's start brainstorming," Mary replied, carefully weighing her next words. "But I need to be honest with myself first." The realization dawned. In order to reflect vulnerability and authenticity in her content, she had to sit with her feelings of inadequacy. "I need to confront what holds me back." Tom walked over, leaning close, eyes sparking with curiosity. "What do you mean?" Her heart raced as she considered opening up, like peeling back layers of an onion. What if people think I'm just another voice in a saturated market? What if my journey isn't unique enough to matter?" Each word felt like a jagged stone, raw and unfiltered, yet it was a relief to verbalize her turmoil. "Everyone feels that way at some point," Tom reassured, placing a hand on her shoulder. "But you have a story only you can tell. Remember, it's about your perspective." Mary swallowed hard, the tightness in her chest loosening a little. His faith in her was a buoy, but deep down, she questioned if her voice was truly worth hearing. Pushing away the nagging doubts, she approached the whiteboard she had commandeered for her ideas. "Let's outline some content ideas." As she grabbed a marker, she surprised herself by proposing the first topic that sprung to her mind: "How cooking became my therapy." The phrase resonated with her, encapsulating a truth she had long ignored. "Perfect. What else?" Tom prompted, leaning toward her with palpable excitement. The floodgates of creativity began to open as she wrote, "Embracing failure in the kitchen," and "Finding joy in the mundane." Each concept felt like a stepping stone, bringing her closer to something profound. Yet amidst her burst of inspiration, the voice of self-doubt slinked back in. "Are these relatable? Are you truly prepared to delve into those experiences?" Just as soon as the ideas spilled onto the board, inspirations began to morph into looming tasks. Mary's cyber world beckoned, promising the thrill of engagement mixed with the threat of judgment. How do I even get started with social media? The thought was daunting, the platform both an opportunity and a perilous stage on which she would lay herself bare. "Maybe we can tackle that together," Tom suggested. His genuine interest nudged her faith in him. Collaborating felt like a safety net, but the weight of this newfound venture bore down on her shoulders. And then, without warning, the enormity of it all would hit her anew. Crafting a genuine narrative would mean exposing not just her gastronomic triumphs, but the very fabric of her struggles. Was she ready to unearth those stories, standing firm against possible derision? "What do we do next?" she asked Tom, determination rising within her despite the chill of apprehension. "We set goals and break them down," he suggested, his voice steady. "Start small. Don't let everything overwhelm you." As they zoomed in on the practical elements, timelines, content types, frequency, it became apparent that weaving her identity into this blog would require surgical precision. Yet with every point they outlined, Mary could tangibly feel the web of connection weaving tighter around her, between her journey, passion, and Tom's unwavering support. At that moment, a sense of agency pulsed through her, igniting a flame that flickered through her doubt. Was this venture the path to self-discovery she had needed? With her soul now exposed to limitless possibilities, yet also guarding her vulnerabilities, she grasped a sense of empowerment unlike any she had felt. The first draft of her essay materialized in her mind. A tale of adversities fought and passion embraced, all the raw elements she so desperately wanted to share. But that chill of anxiety loomed again as she realized one critical truth. Would her words create connection or amplify her fears? As they sat in the kitchen, slowly weaving her narrative, Mary couldn't shake the feeling that the real test lay not just in sharing her successes, but also in framing her failures as learning moments. "Are we ready to move beyond the easy surface?" she pondered aloud, a flicker of trepidation igniting like a match struck against kindling. What would happen when it was time to share her vulnerabilities in the public arena? Tomorrow awaited, both tantalizing and terrifying, with eye-opening revelations surely on the horizon. A storm of emotions brewed within her, suggesting that perhaps answering the call of this venture was only the beginning. Would her courage stretch to encompass the raw honesty required? All she knew was that the moment to confront that truth was looming ever closer. The sun had fully ascended, bathing the kitchen in warm hues that echoed the excitement fluttering inside Mary. Gathered around the whiteboard, she and Tom were piecing together the architectural framework of her venture. The initial spark of enthusiasm was morphing into a tangible structure. Yet beneath that surface layer, doubt simmered persistently. "What about your approach to failure?" Tom asked, leaning back to examine the sprawl of ideas. "I think sharing how you wrestle with it can make you more relatable." Mary's throat tightened at the mention of failure. Those painful instances, the burnt dishes, the messy kitchen, played like a reel in her mind, vivid yet intimidating. "It's not just about the food, though," she confessed. "It's about the emotional toll. I've always seen these experiences as missteps, not as stories worth sharing." "Exactly. They are learning moments," he urged, his tone encouraging. "Framing them as part of your growth can connect with others who are struggling with their own setbacks." But would anyone truly care? The prospect coursed through her, leaving a hollow ache in its wake. She fiddled with the marker, contemplating the risk of exposing those scars. What if the response was tepid, filled with polite dismissal? It could vanish the little confidence she had built. As she penned down thoughts about resilience, a new question emerged from the depths of her anxiety. Am I ready for this level of vulnerability? The notion hung in the air, heavy and foreboding. "Authenticity is what draws people in," Tom replied, sensing her hesitation. "Your voice matters. The world sees you as a person, not just a content creator." Confrontation awaited her, a face-off with her own misconceptions. She had never viewed herself as a storyteller, more like a simple home cook. The thought of considering her experiences worthy felt like a stretch. Swallowing the knot in her throat, she gathered her strength. "What if I began with a story that scared me the most?" she proposed. "I could write about the time I thought I'd lost my touch completely after a disastrous dinner party." Tom shot her an approving smile. "See? That's a start. Take small steps into vulnerability. Don't try to unveil everything at once." Mary felt a flicker of determination. Perhaps the unraveling was where the magic happened. Inviting scrutiny both terrified and exhilarated her. In exploring the depths of her struggles, she could cultivate not just a narrative, but a bridge to others experiencing similar fears. While they continued fine-tuning her approach, her mind danced between excitement and apprehension. Strategizing became an exercise, the plan for her narrative slowly morphing into a map, charting her emotional landscape. Later that afternoon, she laid out her timeline, noting deadlines that felt both achievable and daunting. Each checkmark gained a tangible weight as she transformed abstract ideas into concrete commitments. But lingering beneath this newfound clarity was an underlying tension. How far was she willing to go? At one point, glancing at Tom, she hesitated. How can I truly share without sounding forced? I don't want to fabricate drama for the sake of engagement. You don't have to be an expert at storytelling, he reassured her. Your experiences are yours, presented in a way that only you can deliver. The key is honesty. Honesty, she repeated, testing the word on her tongue. It was a promise, not just to her audience, but to herself. Caution remained, however, a whisper cautioning her to tread carefully along the precipice of raw exposure. That evening, fueled by both frustration and excitement, she found herself jotting down her narrative in a handwritten journal, a practice that felt both ancient and new. Each stroke held her truth, the ink a vessel for her vulnerabilities. She was crafting a path toward not just potential visibility, but authenticity. What she showcased wouldn't just be a polished exterior, it would be an honest excavation of experiences that shaped her. As the day faded into twilight, Mary's thoughts swirled with anticipation. Recognition of her fears fueled her creativity, transforming shadows into shades of insight. What if embracing this fear charged her journey further than she had anticipated? Would challenging herself unlock a depth she had never before explored? And as she prepared herself for that risk, a chilling realization washed over her. To truly engage, she would need to embrace the very essence of her being, her insecurities, her failures, and more importantly, her resilience. Tomorrow would beckon with the weight of those revelations looming, would stepping into her narrative transform the way she viewed herself. The horizon of her journey awaited, ripe with possibility, yet fraught with doubt. Would she rise to the challenge of confronting herself head-on, or would she find safety in retreat? A sharp line of sunlight framed Mary as she settled at her kitchen table the next morning, the weight of her resolve both exhilarating and intimidating. The unfinished pages of her journal awaited her, an expanse of uncharted territory. She met the blank paper with a mix of determination and anxiety. Double-checked plans hovered at the forefront of her mind. But that wasn't all. A heavier layer loomed over her thoughts, that critical plunge into her own vulnerability. She had articulated it clearly before Tom, yet as her pen hovered, she questioned whether she could truly tear back the layers of her life. The reservations wrapped around her like a cloak. Could she strike the balance between honesty and oversharing? Would people tune in or tune her out as she bared her soul? Her heart suggested a narrative framework, a story about her disastrous dinner party, but not for wreck fishing. No, she wanted her experiences to serve a greater purpose. Digging for deeper truths felt volcanic in nature, yet here she was, teetering on the brink of the eruption. Mary took a deep breath, focusing on the lesson she had learned that night when the smoke alarm blared amidst a failed soufflé, and her best friend had to reassure her that cooking wasn't her only talent. There it was. A moment of reflection, a reminder that imperfection wasn't just a fail. It was a part of the authentic experience she was striving to advocate. I need to show them it's okay to fail, she murmured to herself as she dipped her pen into ink. Each sprawl of cursive unfurled like a flag, claiming ownership over her scattered memories. The scent of coffee wafted through the air, grounding her while thoughts spiraled into action. The more she wrote, the clearer her approach became, evolving from recounting singular incidents to weaving lessons throughout. There was power in admitting she, too, felt small in a world where others seemed so polished and refined. Strangers on social media, with their edited photos and curated lives, had blurred her perspective. With each stroke of her pen, she dug deeper into the emotional toll of her journey. Each failure wasn't just a point of embarrassment, it had molded her understanding and cemented her resilience. This was the voice she needed to embody. The world didn't just need to see the final products, but the road leading to them. As she captured each messy moment, a warmth bubbled within her. A quiet confidence began to replace doubt, growing steadily with every reflection. There was a broader lesson to be learned from that dinner party debacle. She recalled the laughter that had echoed through her home amidst the chaos and the aftermath of supportive texts from friends who didn't care about burnt dishes. They valued her presence. Could she illustrate the growth from imperfection to self-acceptance? She set that intention clear in her narrative, realizing that those moments of vulnerability were gifts meant to be shared, not buried. They held the potential to dismantle the facade of perfection she often felt pressured to maintain. In the vein of crafting a relatable persona, she decided to interlace her story with insights on how vulnerability had fostered connection. People were inherently drawn to authenticity, weren't they? The doubts still lingered like shadows, but Mary contemplated how this could manifest into a lived experience for her audience. Just as she finished her page, a sharp knock at the door interrupted her thoughts, a stark contrast to her quiet morning. The sudden intrusion caused her heart to race. Who could it be? Cautiously, she approached the door, worried her moment of inspiration would be derailed. As she turned the knob, she prepared herself for whatever awaited her on the other side. Not only was she ready to share her failures, but maybe today she would find a new layer of her journey emerging, something transformative that demanded to be recognized. With a pulse of excitement mingled with trepidation, Mary opened the door to reveal an unexpected face, one that posed potential challenges to her burgeoning narrative. Would this encounter test her resolve, or could it instead serve as a catalyst to ignite her newfound voice? The moment stood pregnant with possibilities, a pivotal turn on the page of her evolving story. Mary's breath caught as she opened the door, revealing Tara, her neighbor, a woman known for her brash honesty and unfiltered opinions. The grin on Tara's face seemed genuine, but Mary felt a knot tighten in her stomach. The appearance of her neighbor brought the reality of her own insecurities crashing down. Tara was the kind of person who thrived on perfection, flaunting her seemingly effortless success. "Hey, Mary, I was just passing by and thought I'd drop in," Tara chirped, her voice a vibrant contrast to the muted colors of Mary's morning. "Hi, Tara." Mary's smile felt forced, her heart still racing from the delicious vulnerability she had just begun to embrace. "Come in?" As they moved to the kitchen, where remnants of Mary's earlier writing session remained, ink-stained pages scattered across the table, Tara's gaze landed on the open journal. The sudden silence felt heavy, and Mary's mind raced with questions. Had she just accidentally opened the door to criticism? "You're writing?" Tara asked, tilting her head slightly. "What about?" Mary hesitated. She had wanted to share her journey with openness, but now words formed stumbling blocks in her throat. "Just life experiences," she finally replied, keeping her tone light, as though the gravity of her exploration meant little. Tara laughed, a sharp sound that cut through the air. "Oh boy, we all have them, don't we? But you're not like the rest of us. You have your stuff together." The compliment stung more than it empowered. Mary realized in that moment how difficult it was to cut through layers of perception. Tara's words were meant to be flattering, but felt like a reflection of everything Mary wasn't. She silently battled the urge to retract into herself. That distinction she craved, the authenticity she wanted to embody, was slipping away. "I'm trying to show that's not true," Mary eventually said, almost defiantly. "Life isn't just about achievements. It's about the messiness, the moments we stumble and fall." Tara paused, her expression shifting as if she were processing something unfamiliar. Are you serious? The surprise in her voice opened a window, one Mary could step through. But don't you think people sometimes just want to see the success, the neat and tidy? It feels safer. But that's the trap, Mary exclaimed, heat rising to her cheeks. The perfect pictures and stories hide someone's truth. I want to share mine, the flaws, the chaos. I want people to feel comfortable being themselves. Tara crossed her arms, pondering. You really think that'll resonate? Mary felt a flicker of resolve. I do. If I show them my vulnerabilities, maybe they'll feel inspired to embrace theirs. The air shifted. Tara's demeanor softened. It's brave of you, I'll give you that. Most people wouldn't dare. What started as a confrontation transformed into a discussion about authenticity and vulnerability. The exchange forced Mary to confront her own fears. Would she truly find acceptance, not just from others, but also within herself? As they wrapped up their conversation, Mary felt lighter, her confidence beginning to take root amidst the weeds of self-doubt. Tara was still a polished figure, but for the first time, a flicker of admiration gleamed in her eyes. After Tara left, Mary sat quietly at her table, rolling the dialogue over in her mind. She didn't just want to illustrate her imperfections, she needed to embrace them. Telling her story authentically was an act of rebellion against societal norms, an opportunity for connection, understanding, and learning. The pages in her journal now seemed less daunting. They were encouraging, guiding her to balance honesty without fear of judgment. She picked up her pen again, the ink ready to flow, and began to write. What if this was the moment that transformed her voice into a beacon for others? But as she wrote, a flash of doubt crept in. Could she truly face the reactions that might follow her revelations? The fear nagged at her as she considered whether she would stumble again in the face of potential rejection. The pull of both possibility and apprehension gripped her. Would she pay heed to the voices urging caution, or push forward into the chaos she yearned to share? With urgency in her chest, Mary's pen hovered over the page. The next sentence could change everything, and the pressure to choose loomed heavily over her thoughts, ready to set her narrative on an unexpected course. The morning sun streamed through the kitchen window, illuminating the pages of Mary's journal as she gripped her pen like a lifeline. Today wasn't just another writing session. It was a pivotal moment in her journey. The conversation with Tara had sparked both doubt and determination, forcing her to confront the integrity of her voice. Embracing vulnerability could be her most powerful tool, not a source of embarrassment, but a foundation for connection. As she took a deep breath, Mary felt the weight of her aspirations settle over her like a comforting blanket. She was no longer merely a homemaker caught in a cycle of expectations. She was a woman stepping into her truth, ready to share her chaotic, colorful journey. This narrative isn't just mine, she whispered to herself. It's a mosaic of experiences that intersect with others' lives. That realization became her North Star. Each word she penned now pulsed with intention. She crafted paragraphs about her childhood, the memories that shaped her love for cooking, entwined with tales of mishaps that had initially felt like failures, but were now stepping stones to self-acceptance. The flops, burnt casseroles, ill-prepared soufflés, were no longer shameful secrets. They were heroic tales of resilience. With every stroke of the pen, Mary felt lighter. The chaos she had once feared transformed into vibrant threads in the tapestry of her life. She wrote not to impress others, but to resonate with those who might be feeling the same fear of failure, the same longing for acceptance. Each blunder made her human, relatable, a stark contrast to the polished images that often dominated social media. Your failures are your greatest teachers, she wrote, recalling her grandmother's words. They echoed through her mind, urging her to ground her narrative in authenticity, to demolish the facade of perfection. She could already hear the gentle rustle of eager readers, hungry for connection, ready to embrace their own imperfections. As hours passed, her confidence solidified like a well-cooked soufflé, filling and uplifting. With fresh words flowing seamlessly, she scripted her first blog post, cooking through chaos, embracing the messy parts of life. It felt like a door opening to a new realm, and the sweetness of empowerment overshadowed her earlier fears. Suddenly, a thought hit her like a rush of adrenaline. Seeking validation from others was inconsequential compared to holding true to herself. I can achieve my goals while remaining unapologetically me, she realized, the mantra igniting a fire of determination within her. Later that evening, as Tom returned home, Mary felt a bubbling excitement. He glanced at her cluttered workspaces, the written pages marking her progress, and smiled. Mary turned to him, her heart full of hope. I've created something today, my very first blog post. His eyes lit up. Really? That's fantastic. Can I read it? Of course, she replied, handing him the sheets. With his undivided attention, she felt as though the weight of her vulnerability melted away. As Tom read, Mary held her breath, praying her words connected. When he finally looked up, a warmth radiated from his gaze. Mary, this is incredible. Your voice is so genuine. You've captured the essence of what it means to be human, he said, his approval washing over her like sunshine after a storm. Tears pricked her eyes, and for the first time in years, she felt seen, not only by Tom, but by herself. She had overcome self-doubt and emerged with a powerful story yearning to be shared. It was a transformative leap, not just in dialogue with him, but within her own being. Encouraged by the affirmation, Mary began keeping a timeline for her blog, eager to share her journey of creating healthier recipes intertwined with life lessons. She envisioned a series that encapsulated her newfound philosophy of embracing the trials alongside triumphs. The goal became more than just a platform. It was a mission of authenticity with potential to empower others. Weeks turned into months, and with each post, Mary honed her craft. Readers began resonating with her stories. She could feel the shift within herself ripple outward, touching countless lives. Her blog became a sanctuary where others could gather to celebrate imperfections. The culmination of her journey was not just manifest in her writing, it was in the conversations she inspired. One morning, she received a message from a follower. "Thank you for sharing your struggles. Your words encouraged me to embrace my own failures instead of hiding from them," the message read, igniting a sense of fulfillment deep within her. Tom's unwavering support fueled her confidence further as he celebrated alongside her, participating in her culinary adventures, cheering her on during her moments of doubt. Together, they cooked up dishes inspired by her grandmother's recipes, savoring the failures and triumphs as a couple. Ultimately, Mary Lawson didn't just transform a simple lifestyle blog. She cultivated a community bound by shared experiences and authentic expressions of life's beautiful chaos. Each day felt like a new victory, proof that when one embraces the essence of self, even the messiest parts can become opportunities to connect, inspire, and thrive. In this journey, Mary achieved so much more than she ever thought possible. She confronted her fears, unveiled her truth, and created a ripple effect of inspiration. With renewed purpose, Mary Lawson had truly reinvented herself, stepping out of the shadows and into a light that would guide others on their own journeys. And in that realization, she found her voice. This wasn't the end, it was just the beginning. Women like her needed to know they weren't alone in their struggles, and she would be the one to show them that embracing their stories was the first step towards empowerment. So, in the spirit of connection, if Mary's journey resonates with you, even just a little, take that leap. Embrace your imperfections. You need to subscribe now, join this movement, and explore the next chapter filled with exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support authentic narratives that matter. Share your reactions and theories in the comments. Your insights are crucial on this journey of connection. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let's create a community bound by vulnerability and strength.